Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the entrance of the Galactic Council chamber and felt her breath catch in her throat. The room was massive, bigger than any stadium she had ever seen on Earth. Rows of seats curved upward in a spiral pattern, and each seat held a being from another world. Some were tall and thin, others were short and wide. Some had fur, others had scales, and a few seemed to be made of crystal or light itself. But something felt strange to Sarah. She couldn't quite put her finger on it at first. The entire chamber was built from materials that looked expensive and advanced, yet everything seemed so plain. The walls were white and gray. The seats were black or dark gray. Even the decorations and screens showed images in shades of gray and white, with only occasional hints of what looked like pale blue. "It's rather drab, isn't it?" whispered Dr. James Rodriguez, the xenobiologist standing beside her. He was part of Earth's diplomatic team, and his job was to study alien life forms. Sarah nodded slightly. "I thought aliens would have more style." "This looks like an old black and white film." They walked forward as a voice boomed through the chamber. "The representatives from Earth, please approach the center platform." Sarah led her team down the long walkway. Their footsteps echoed in the silent room. Thousands of alien eyes watched them. Sarah had been a painter before she became a diplomat, and she found herself analyzing the room from an artist's perspective. Where was the warmth? Where was the life? Everything was so cold and monotone. They reached the center platform, which rose from the floor like a stage. Standing there was Council Speaker Threxian, a being that looked like a giant insect with 6 legs and 4 arms. His body was covered in a hard shell that reflected the light in shades of gray and white. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Threxian said. His voice was translated through a device that made it sound almost musical. "You have requested membership in the galactic community. Today we will review your application." Sarah bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Council Speaker. Earth is honored to be here." For the next hour, Sarah and her team presented information about Earth. They showed videos of human cities, talked about human technology, and explained Earth's culture and values. The council members watched carefully, occasionally asking questions through their translation devices. Sarah noticed that whenever they showed videos or images from Earth, the aliens seemed confused by certain things. When she showed a picture of a forest, one council member asked why the image looked strange. When she displayed art from human museums, another asked if the images were corrupted. "No, these images are correct," Sarah explained, puzzled by the questions. Trade Minister Vokara, a being made of clear crystal that sparkled under the lights, leaned forward. "Your visual data transmission seems unusual. Our technicians reported anomalies in the wavelength patterns." Dr. Rodriguez frowned. "Anomalies? Our equipment is working perfectly." "Perhaps it is a translation error," suggested High Commander Zelthros, a tall reptilian being with dark scales. "Let us move forward." The presentation continued. Sarah talked about Earth's resources, its willingness to trade, and humanity's desire to learn from other species. The council seemed impressed. They whispered among themselves in languages that the translation devices couldn't quite capture. Near the end of the presentation, Sarah made a casual comment. "We apologize for the simple presentation. We tried to keep things professional. I know our data displays might seem drab compared to what you're used to, but we can certainly add more color in future presentations." The entire chamber went silent. It was such a sudden and complete silence that Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. Had she said something wrong? Was drab an insult in some alien culture? Council Speaker Threxian tilted his head. "Color? You used this word before. What does it mean?" Sarah blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "The word color. You have used it several times. Our translation systems recognize it as a human word, but we do not understand its meaning in this context." Sarah looked at Dr. Rodriguez, who looked back at her with wide eyes. "Color means the way things look? Like red or blue or green?" More silence. The council members looked at each other. "Red? Blue? Green?" Threxian repeated the words slowly. "These are also human terms with no clear translation. Please explain." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. How could she explain color to beings who didn't know what it was? "Color it's how we see things. Different objects reflect light in different ways, and we see those differences as colors." Trade Minister Vokara's crystal body seemed to pulse. "All species see light reflecting from objects. This is normal vision. but we see shapes and brightness, light and shadow. What are these colors you speak of? Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, his mind racing. May I ask a question? How do you see the world? Describe it to me. An alien from the back row spoke up. She had blue skin and large eyes. We see light and dark, bright and dim. We see shapes and textures. Some species can see heat patterns. Others can see in the dark. But we all see the same basic things. Do you see differences between objects that are the same brightness? Rodriguez asked carefully. Only texture and shape, the blue-skinned alien replied. Rodriguez turned to Sarah, his face pale. Oh my God, he whispered. I think they're all colorblind. Sarah felt the world tilt. All of them? It would explain everything. The gray buildings, the confusion about our images, everything. Council Speaker Threxian's voice interrupted them. Please explain what you mean by colorblind. Sarah took a deep breath. On Earth, humans can see differences in light that go beyond brightness. When light hits an object, it bounces back at different wavelengths. We can see these differences. A red apple and a green leaf might have the same brightness, but we see them as completely different because of these wavelengths. Impossible, said High Commander Zelthros. If they had the same brightness, they would look identical. Not to humans, Sarah said softly. To us, they look completely different. We call these differences colors. The council erupted in conversation. Aliens spoke to each other in concerned tones. Some seemed excited, others seemed suspicious. Sarah stood on the platform, feeling like she had just opened a door that could never be closed. Finally, Council Speaker Threxian raised one of his forearms for silence. This is unexpected. We must verify this claim. If humans truly have a sense that no other known species possesses, it has significant implications. We can prove it, Dr. Rodriguez said quickly. We can run tests. Yes, Threxian agreed. Tests will be necessary. For now, Earth is granted preliminary observer status. We will schedule meetings to investigate this color vision you claim to have. This council is adjourned. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, Sarah and her team stood alone on the platform. They looked at each other in shock. Did we just discover that humans are the only species in the galaxy who can see in color? Sarah asked. It looks that way, Rodriguez replied. Sarah thought about all the art in human history, all the paintings and photographs, all the beauty that humans saw in sunsets and flowers and oceans. They've never seen any of it, she whispered. They live in a world of shadows and light. As they walked back to their quarters, Sarah noticed something she hadn't before. The station they were on, Nexus 7, wasn't just built in shades of gray because it was professional or modern. It was built that way because the aliens who designed it literally couldn't see any other option. That night, Dr. Rodriguez stayed up late in his room, pulling up biological data on every alien species in the galactic community. He needed to know if his suspicion was correct. He needed to know if humanity had just revealed the biggest difference between humans and the rest of the galaxy. And in her own quarters, Ambassador Sarah Chen stared out the window at the stars and wondered what tomorrow would bring. They had come to join a galactic community. Instead, they had discovered that humans could see a universe that no one else could see. The implications were staggering, and Sarah had a feeling that their real journey was only just beginning. Dr. James Rodriguez had not slept all night. His room was filled with data screens, showing biological information about every alien species in the galactic community. His eyes were red from staring at the information for hours, but he couldn't stop. What he was discovering was too important. When the artificial morning light came on in his quarters, Rodriguez immediately called an emergency meeting. Within 20 minutes, Ambassador Sarah Chen and the rest of the human team gathered in their conference room. Tell me you found something that makes sense of all this, Sarah said as she sat down with a cup of coffee. Rodriguez stood at the front of the room, his hands shaking slightly from exhaustion and excitement. I've been going through the biological records of all 47 species in the Galactic Council. I also looked at records from another 100 species that aren't on the Council, but are part of the community. And, prompted Sarah, every single one of them has limited color vision. Most of them see the world in what we would call grayscale, with maybe some blue-yellow distinction at best. Some can see into ultraviolet or infrared ranges, but none of them can see the full spectrum that humans see. The room went silent. Another team member, Dr. Lisa Park, spoke up. None of them? Not even one? Not one, Rodriguez confirmed. Humans have 3 types of color receptors in our eyes. We call them cones. Most aliens have only two types, and some have just one. That's why they can't see colors the way we do. Sarah leaned back in her chair, so when we showed them pictures of Earth, they saw everything in shades of gray and maybe pale blue, Rodriguez finished. All our green forests, our blue oceans, our red deserts, everything humans see as colorful, they saw as just different shades of gray. This is insane, muttered another team member. How is this possible? How did every other species evolve without full-color vision? Rodriguez shrugged. I don't know. Maybe Earth was special somehow. Maybe the plants on Earth evolved bright colors, so our ancestors needed to see those colors to survive. Most alien worlds seem to have less visual complexity. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the space station's corridor. It was all white and gray metal. We need to show them. We need to prove that we really can see something they can't. I agree, Rodriguez said. I've already requested a formal meeting with a council committee. I told them we have important clarification about human perception. 3 hours later, Sarah and Rodriguez stood in a small meeting room with 5 council members. Council Speaker Threxian was there, along with Trade Minister Vocara, High Commander Zelthros, and 2 others that Sarah didn't know well. You requested this meeting, Threxian said. Please explain. Rodriguez stepped forward with a portable display. Last night I researched the biology of all species in the galactic community. I've confirmed that humans have a type of vision that appears to be unique. We can see in what we call full color. He pressed a button on the display. An image appeared showing a sunset from Earth. To humans it was beautiful with orange, red, pink, and purple clouds against a blue sky. Describe what you see, Rodriguez asked the aliens. High Commander Zelthros studied the image. I see a bright area at the horizon with darker areas above. Some variation in brightness across the sky. The landscape below is dark, that's all? Sarah asked. What else is there? Zelthros replied. Sarah felt a chill. She was looking at one of the most beautiful images from Earth, and the aliens saw it as basically a bright spot with some gray clouds. Rodriguez showed another image. This one showed a garden with red roses, yellow sunflowers, purple lavender, and green grass. What do you see? He asked again. Trade Minister Vocara, the crystalline being, made a humming sound. I see various plants with different shapes and textures. Some are bright, some are dark. The ground appears to be covered in small uniform shapes. You can't see the difference between the roses and the grass beyond their shape? Sarah asked. They have different textures and the roses are brighter, Vocara said. What else should I see? Rodriguez took a deep breath. To humans, every plant in that image looks completely different. Not just in shape or brightness, but in color. The roses appear red, which is a warm, vibrant sensation. The grass appears green, which is a cool, fresh sensation. The sunflowers are yellow, bright, and cheerful. The lavender is purple, soft, and calming. The aliens looked at each other. One of them, a being with tentacles, spoke up. You're describing emotional responses to visual stimuli. All species have that. No, Sarah said firmly. We're describing actual visual differences. Red, green, yellow, purple, these aren't emotions. They're things we see. They're as real to us as shapes are to you. Council Speaker Threxian leaned forward. This is difficult to comprehend. You claim to see differences that our technology cannot detect. Your technology can detect them, Rodriguez said. You just don't have the biology to perceive them. Your eyes can't process that information. He pulled out a box from his bag. Inside were dozens of small buttons, each identical in size and shape. To the humans in the room, they were clearly different colors. Red, blue, green, yellow, orange, purple, pink, and more. I'm going to scatter these on the table, Rodriguez said. They're all the same brightness, same size, same shape. Ambassador Chen, please sort them without touching them. Just point to which ones are the same. Sarah looked at the buttons spread across the table. Those 5 are red. Those 6 are blue. Those 4 are green. Those 3 are yellow. She sorted all 40 buttons into 8 groups. In less than 30 seconds. Now you try. Rodriguez said to High. Commander Zelthros, the reptilian commander, studied the buttons carefully. He reached out with a claw and touched them, examining their texture. They all feel the same. They all look the same to me. I cannot sort them. Each alien tried. None of them could see any difference between the buttons. They all looked identical to them. The room fell into stunned silence. Trade Minister Vocara finally spoke, and there was something like wonder in the translated voice. You truly can see things we cannot. This is not a trick? It's not a trick, Sarah said quietly. This is how humans see the world every day. We thought it was normal. We had no idea we were different. Council Speaker Threxian stood up slowly. This has significant implications. If humans can perceive visual information that we cannot, it affects everything. Trade, security, culture, everything. What happens now? Sarah asked. Now we must tell the full council, Threxian said. This is too important to keep in this room. The entire galactic community must know. Over the next 2 days, word spread through Nexus 7 like fire. Humans could see something no other species could see. Scientists requested meetings. Military advisors wanted tests. Traders wanted to know what it meant for business. Sarah found herself constantly explaining what color was to aliens who had no frame of reference. It was like trying to explain music to someone who had never heard sound. She described red as warm and passionate, blue as cool and calm, green as natural and alive. But words could never truly capture what it meant to see color. Dr. Rodriguez was flooded with requests from xenobiologists who wanted to study human eyes. Some aliens were excited, seeing this as a wonderful discovery. Others were nervous, worried about what it meant to have humans see things they couldn't. On the 3rd day, Sarah received a private message on her communication device. It came from an unknown source and contained only one sentence. You've just made humanity either the most valuable or the most dangerous species in known space. Be careful which one we become. Sarah showed the message to Rodriguez. Someone is worried, Rodriguez said. Someone should be, Sarah replied. We just told the galaxy that we have a sense they don't have, that we can see things they're blind to. Some will see opportunity, others will see threat. What do we do? Sarah looked out at the space station, at all the aliens walking past in their world of gray and shadow. We show them that being different doesn't make us enemies. We show them that our color vision can help everyone, not just us. And if they don't believe that? Sarah didn't answer. She didn't have an answer. All she knew was that humanity had crossed a line. They couldn't go back to being just another species trying to join the community. They were now the species that could see in color. The emergency council session was scheduled for the next day. Every member would be there. Every species would vote on what to do about humanity. Sarah Chen had come to the stars hoping to make friends. Instead, she had revealed that humans were fundamentally different from everyone else in ways no one had imagined. Tomorrow, the galaxy would decide what that meant. The news spread through the entire galactic community within hours. Humans could see colors. Most species didn't even know what that meant, but they knew it was important. Within 2 weeks, everything changed for the human delegation on Nexus 7. Sarah Chen barely had time to sleep anymore. Her quarters were constantly filled with alien visitors who wanted to understand this color vision thing. Some were scientists, some were traders, and some were just curious. A young alien named Kickstar visited most often. Kickstar belonged to a species called the Yantari, and he looked like a large cat that walked on 2 legs. He was an intern working at the station, and he was fascinated by humans. Tell me again what red looks like, Kickstar asked for the 10th time that week. Sarah smiled tiredly. She was sitting in her quarters with a cup of tea, trying to find words to describe something visual to someone who couldn't see it. Red is warm. It's the color of fire and blood. It makes you feel energetic and alive. When humans see red, we feel excitement or sometimes danger. But what does it look like? Kickstar insisted. I don't know how to explain that part, Sarah admitted. It's like asking me to describe what a sound looks like. Red is just red. You have to see it to understand it. Kickstar made a sad sound. I wish I could see it. I wish I could see all the colors you talk about. Your descriptions make the universe sound so much bigger. Meanwhile, Dr. Rodriguez was dealing with the scientific community. Xenobiologists from dozens of species wanted to study human eyes. They wanted to understand how human vision worked and why humans evolved this way. Your planet must be very unusual, said Dr. Vexel, a scientist who looked like a floating jellyfish. Most worlds don't have the visual complexity that would require color vision. Your plants must be very colorful. They are, Rodriguez confirmed. Earth has flowers in every color. We have birds with bright feathers, fish with colorful scales, insects with rainbow wings. Color is everywhere on Earth. Fascinating, Vexel said. Most worlds have life, but it's usually in shades that we can all see. Earth must be a very different place. But not everyone was excited about the discovery. High Commander Zelthros called a meeting with Sarah and presented a concerning report. Ambassador Chen, I must be direct with you, Zelthros said in his office. Your color vision is a security concern. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. How so? Zelthros pulled up several military reports. Our camouflage technology is designed to blend into backgrounds based on brightness and texture. But if humans can see colors, you might be able to spot camouflaged soldiers that we cannot see. You could identify chemical weapons by color changes that our sensors miss. You could navigate by markers that are invisible to us. We would never use our vision against the galactic community, Sarah said firmly. Perhaps not, Zelthros said, but others might try to use you. Criminal organizations, hostile forces, industrial spies, they would pay well for humans who could see things others cannot. Sarah realized he was right. Already she had received 3 job offers from private companies that seemed suspicious. They wanted humans to consult on various projects, but the pay was too high, and the details were too vague. Trade Minister Vocara had very different concerns. The crystalline being called Sarah to a meeting in the station's commercial district. Ambassador Chen, I have a business proposal, Vocara said, her crystal body refracting the light in patterns that Sarah found beautiful, but Vocara probably couldn't even see. What kind of proposal? Human color vision could revolutionize manufacturing, Vocara explained. Our quality control is based on measurements and sensors, but sensors can be fooled. Humans could spot defects, impurities, and variations that our technology misses. You could examine materials and tell us things we've never known about our own products. You want to hire humans as inspectors? Sarah asked. Not just inspectors, consultants, evaluators, art experts. Think about it, Ambassador. For millions of years, galactic trade has operated without anyone who could see color. Now you're here. You could identify valuable minerals by sight. You could grade luxury goods in ways we never imagined. You could authenticate artwork and detect forgeries. Sarah could see the possibilities, but also the problems. And humans would become essential to your economy? Yes, Vocara said simply. Is that a problem? It could be. What happens if we become too valuable? What if someone decides humans are too useful to be free? Vocara was silent for a moment. That is a valid concern, but the biggest tension came from an unexpected source. A species called the Crystalline Collective sent a formal complaint to the Council. Their representative, a being named Shardmaster Kree, was angry. Our entire society is based on refractive patterns, Kree explained at a public forum. We can create patterns in our bodies that identify our rank, our family, our achievements. It's how we communicate, how we organize, how we live. But now we learn that humans can see these patterns better than we can. They can see details in our bodies that we ourselves cannot see. This is an invasion of our privacy. Sarah attended the forum and tried to calm things down. We don't want to invade anyone's privacy. We didn't even know we were seeing something special. But you do see it, Kree insisted. You can look at me and see things about my body that I cannot see. That is disturbing. Other species had similar concerns. A group of conservative council members formed a coalition called the Preservation Front. They argued that humans were too different to integrate safely into galactic society. They are not like us, said the leader of the Preservation Front, an elderly alien named Grix. They see things we don't see. They perceive reality differently. How can we trust them? How can we build a society with beings who experience the universe in fundamentally different ways? Sarah was asked to address the council and respond to these concerns. She stood at the center platform where she had stood 3 weeks earlier. But now the atmosphere was very different. The aliens weren't just curious anymore. Some were excited, but others were afraid or angry. Members of the council, Sarah began. I understand your concerns. I understand that our color vision makes some of you uncomfortable. But I want you to think about something. Every species in this chamber has unique abilities. She pointed to different sections of the room. The Solix can see heat patterns. The Vreen can hear sounds across vast distances. The Morphids can sense electromagnetic fields. The Crystalline Collective can feel vibrations through solid matter. Every species has senses that others don't have. We all experience reality differently. She paused to let that sink in. Yes, humans can see colors, but we can't hear ultrasonic frequencies like the Vreen. We can't sense magnetic fields like the Morphids. We can't feel vibrations like the Crystalline Collective. We need you just as much as you might need us. An alien from the back spoke up. But color vision seems more powerful, is it? Sarah asked. When a ship's navigation system fails, the Morphids can sense the magnetic field and guide the ship home. When a structural problem is invisible to cameras, the Crystalline Collective can feel the vibrations and find the weakness. Every sense has value. Every perspective reveals something others miss. She pulled out a display and showed a project she had been working on with Dr. Rodriguez. We're creating what we call a perception dictionary. It's a guide to help every species understand what others can sense. We want to describe color in ways you can understand. We want you to teach us about your senses in ways we can understand, not so we can invade each other's privacy, but so we can work together better. Trade Minister Vocara spoke up. The human makes a good point. We have always benefited from multiple perspectives. Why should this be different? Because they can see things we fundamentally cannot, Grix argued. It creates an imbalance. Then we create systems to balance it, High Commander Zelthros said, surprising everyone. We establish protocols. Humans work with other species, not alone. We create ethics guidelines. We ensure their gift is used for the community, not against it. The debate went on for hours. Some species supported humanity, others opposed them, and many were undecided. As Sarah left the council chamber that day, Kixtar was waiting for her. That was a good speech, the young alien said. Thank you, Sarah replied. Can I ask you something? Kixtar asked. You said you wish you could sense what we sense. Did you mean that? Absolutely, Sarah said. There's a whole universe of sensations that I'm blind to. You can hear sounds I'll never hear. Others can feel things I'll never feel. That doesn't make me afraid of you. It makes me want to learn from you. Kixtar smiled, or at least made the expression his species used for happiness. I think you're going to be okay, Ambassador. The Council will see that you're not a threat. Sarah hoped he was right. But that night, as she lay in her quarters, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was at a crossroads. They could become partners with the galaxy, or they could become something else. Something feared, something exploited. Everything depended on what happened next. The alarm woke Sarah Chen at 3 a.m, station time. Her communication device was flashing with an emergency signal. She grabbed it quickly. Ambassador Chen, please come to the command center immediately, said the voice of Council Speaker Threxian. We have a crisis. Sarah dressed quickly and ran through the empty corridors of Nexus 7. When she reached the command center, she found it filled with activity. Aliens rushed around, monitors showed data streams, and everyone looked worried. What's happening? Sarah asked as she approached Threxian. A disaster at Refraction Point Mining Colony, Threxian explained. It's one of our most important resource stations. 3,000 workers are stationed there. High Commander Zelthros joined them, looking grim. There's been a chemical leak. The automated systems malfunctioned. A toxic substance called Hexen-7 is spreading through the facility. Can't they evacuate? Sarah asked. That's the problem, Zelthros said. Hexen-7 is invisible to us. It has no smell, no taste. Our sensors can detect it, but the facility's mineral composition interferes with scanning equipment. The workers can't see where the contamination is, so they don't know which corridors are safe. Sarah felt a chill. How long do they have? 48 hours of life support in the sealed safe zones, Threxian said. After that, they'll have to move, and if they move into contaminated areas... He didn't finish the sentence. What about rescue teams? Sarah asked. We're trying, Zelthros said. But without reliable sensors, we can't map the contamination. We could send teams in, but they'd be walking blind. We could lose the rescuers along with the workers. Sarah stared at the monitor showing the mining facility. Then something occurred to her. What color is Hexon-7? Everyone turned to look at her. Color? Zelthros repeated. You said it's invisible to you. But maybe it's not invisible to humans. What wavelength does it reflect? Zelthros pulled up chemical data. According to this, Hexen-7 would reflect light in the 600 to 650 nanometer range. Dr. Rodriguez, who had arrived moments before, suddenly grabbed Sarah's arm. That's red-orange. We would see it as red-orange. The command center went silent. You're saying humans could see the contamination? Threxian asked slowly. If it reflects light in that range, yes, Rodriguez confirmed. It would look like a red-orange mist or cloud to us. High Commander Zelthros looked at Sarah. Would you be willing to go there? You and your team? Sarah didn't hesitate. Yes, how fast can we get there? 3 hours later, Sarah stood in a transport ship with 11 other humans, all volunteers from the diplomatic team and the few human traders who were on the station. They were being fitted with protective suits and given basic equipment. High Commander Zelthros stood before them. I want to be clear about the danger. You'll be walking into a contaminated facility, with limited sensor support. You'll be relying entirely on your vision to map safe paths. If you make a mistake, if you misread what you see, people will die. We understand, Sarah said. The other humans nodded. Zelthros looked at them for a long moment. You are brave. I want you to know that. We're just doing what needs to be done, Sarah replied. The flight to Refraction Point took 6 hours. During that time, Sarah and her team studied maps of the facility and practiced describing what they saw to the alien rescue teams who would follow their guidance. When they arrived, the facility looked intact from the outside. It was built into an asteroid, with multiple levels carved into the rock. But inside it was a maze of corridors and chambers, and somewhere in that maze a deadly chemical was spreading. Sarah led one team. Dr. Rodriguez led another. They entered through different airlocks, each team accompanied by alien specialists who could provide technical support but couldn't see the contamination. Sarah's helmet had a camera that transmitted what she saw back to the command center, but she knew the aliens watching couldn't see the color. She would have to describe everything. I'm in corridor A7, Sarah reported as she moved forward. The air looks clear. No red-orange mist visible. Confirmed safe, came the response from command. Rescue Team Alpha, you can follow that path. Sarah moved deeper into the facility. The corridors were dark except for emergency lights. Her team spread out, each human taking a different section, each one looking for the telltale red-orange color that meant danger. I see it, Sarah said suddenly. There's a mist coming from a vent in corridor B3. It's spreading along the floor, moving toward the east junction. Mark that area as contaminated, Zelthros ordered. Rescue teams avoid corridor B3 and anything east of it. For hours, Sarah and her team moved through the facility. They found pockets of contamination, safe corridors, and trapped workers. Slowly, they mapped out safe evacuation routes. But then Sarah reached a section where dozens of workers were trapped. They were in a large chamber with only 2 exits, and both exits appeared to be filled with the red-orange mist. Command, I have a problem, Sarah said. There are about 50 workers in Chamber 7C. Both exits are contaminated. Can you find another route? Zelthros asked. Sarah searched, but there was no other way out. The workers were running out of air. They had maybe 3 hours left. Then Sarah noticed something. One of the contaminated corridors had a strange pattern in the mist. Most of it was bright red-orange, but there was a thin band near the floor that looked different. It was more orange than red, more yellow than orange. Rodriguez, Sarah called over the radio. What does it mean if Hexon 7 changes color? Changes color? Rodriguez responded from another section. I'm seeing different shades in the contamination. Some areas are bright red-orange, but this one section is more yellow-orange. There was a pause. Then Rodriguez said, if it's more yellow, that means the wavelength is longer. That could mean it's breaking down. Hexon 7 becomes inert after a few hours in certain conditions. If you're seeing yellow-orange instead of red-orange, that section might be safe. Sarah stared at the corridor. The equipment said it was contaminated. The sensors showed danger, but her eyes told her something different. I'm going to walk through it, Sarah said. Ambassador, no. Zelthros protested. The sensors can't see what I see, Sarah interrupted. I'm going in. She took a deep breath and stepped into the corridor. The mist surrounded her, but she could see that it was definitely more yellow than red. She walked slowly, watching for any change in color. Her heart pounded. If she was wrong, she would die. If she was right, she could save 50 people. She made it to the other side. Her suit's contamination detector showed 0 exposure. It's safe, Sarah reported. The chemical is broken down. This path is clear. Within an hour, all 50 workers were evacuated through that corridor. They walked along a path that looked deadly to their sensors but was actually safe, guided by a human who could see colors they couldn't. The evacuation continued through the night. Every human on the team pushed themselves to exhaustion, mapping safe routes, guiding rescue teams, and finding trapped workers. Dr. Rodriguez saved a group of children in a recreation area by spotting contamination seeping under a door that sensors had missed. Another human, a trader named Marcus Wu, found an entire section of workers by following a thin trail of contamination back to its source. Finally, after 16 hours of continuous work, the last group was evacuated. All 3,000 workers were safe, not a single casualty. Sarah removed her helmet as she stepped back onto the transport ship. She was exhausted, covered in sweat, and her legs were shaking. but she was smiling. High Commander Zelthros approached her. The reptilian commander looked at her for a long moment, then did something surprising. He bowed. "You saved them," Zelthros said. "You walked into danger we couldn't see, trusted senses we don't have, and saved 3,000 lives." "We just did what needed to be done," Sarah replied. "No," Zelthros said firmly. "You did something we could not do. You saw what we are blind to. You went where we could not go, and you asked nothing except the chance to help." As the transport lifted off from the facility, Sarah looked back at the asteroid. Inside that rock, 3,000 beings were alive because humans could see in color. A sense that seemed like just a curiosity had become a life-saving gift. When they returned to Nexus 7, the command center erupted in celebration. Workers from dozens of species cheered as the humans walked in. Kickstar pushed through the crowd to hug Sarah, and even the stern members of the Preservation Front were silent. High Commander Zelthros made a public statement that was broadcast across the entire galactic community. "Today, humanity saved thousands of lives using a gift we didn't know existed until weeks ago. They saw what we could not, went where we could not, and asked nothing but the chance to help. The question before this council is no longer whether humans belong among us. The question is, can we afford for them not to be?" Sarah stood among her tired team and felt tears in her eyes. They had come to the stars hoping to make friends. Instead, they had proven that being different wasn't a threat, it was a strength, and tomorrow the council would vote on humanity's future. But Sarah wasn't worried anymore. They had shown the galaxy who humans were. They had shown what color vision really meant. It meant seeing beauty others couldn't see, and it meant saving lives others couldn't save. 1 week after the rescue at Refraction Point, the Grand Council chamber was filled to capacity. Every seat was taken. Representatives from all 47 species were present, and thousands more watched through live broadcasts across the galaxy. Today was the vote that would decide humanity's place among the stars. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat with her team in the human delegation area. She wore formal diplomatic clothes, but she felt nervous. Everything had led to this moment. The discovery of color vision, the tensions it created, the rescue mission, all of it came down to this vote. Council Speaker Threxian called the chamber to order. "We gather today to vote on Earth's application for full membership in the galactic community. But first, we will hear final statements from those who support and those who oppose this membership." Grix, the leader of the Preservation Front, stood up first. He was an old alien who looked like a large turtle with 6 legs. "I will be brief," Grix said. "Humanity possesses a sense that no other species has. This makes them fundamentally different. Different in ways that create dependency and imbalance. If we accept them, we will rely on their color vision. What happens when we need them and they are not there? What happens when their unique vision gives them power over us?" He sat down. Sarah felt her heart sink. Even after the rescue, some still saw humans as a threat. But then High Commander Zelthros stood up. "I was suspicious of humans when we first learned of their color vision," the reptilian commander said. "I saw security risks. I saw dangers. I was wrong." The chamber buzzed with surprise. Zelthros was known for his cautious military mindset. "At Refraction Point, humans walked into danger to save people they had never met," Zelthros continued. "They risked their lives using senses we cannot verify or understand. They could have asked for payment. They could have demanded special privileges. Instead, they asked only for protective suits and the chance to help. That is not the action of a species seeking power over others. That is the action of allies." Zelthros sat down. Trade Minister Vokara stood up next. Her crystalline body caught the light as she spoke. "From an economic perspective, human color vision opens new possibilities. But more importantly, it teaches us something. For millions of years, we have built our civilization based on what we could all see. We thought we understood the universe. Now we learn that there is more to see, more to experience. If we reject humans because they are different, what does that say about us?" One by one, council members stood and spoke. Some supported humanity. A few still opposed. But Sarah noticed that even those who were nervous about humans seemed more understanding than before. Finally, it was Sarah's turn to speak. She walked to the center platform, the same place where she had first presented Earth's application weeks ago. The chamber fell silent. "Members of the council," Sarah began, "when we came here, we hoped to join your community. We wanted to learn from you, trade with you, and become part of something larger than ourselves. We had no idea that we would discover such a fundamental difference between humans and everyone else. She paused and looked around the chamber. I won't pretend that color vision doesn't matter. It does, it changes how we see the universe. But I want you to understand something important. Yes, we can see colors you cannot see. But you can sense things we cannot sense. Sarah pulled out her portable display and showed images she had been collecting. The Solex can see heat patterns. You can watch the thermal flow of a star and understand its nature in ways we never could. The Vreen can hear frequencies across space. You can listen to the universe singing. The Morphids can sense magnetic fields. You can navigate through space without instruments. Every species here has gifts that humans lack. She showed more images. We are not superior because we see color. We are just different. And those differences make us stronger together. At refraction point, yes, humans could see the contamination. But we needed crystalline collective engineers to stabilize the structure. We needed Solex heat sensors to find trapped workers in sealed chambers. We needed Vreen communication experts to coordinate the rescue across long distances. Every species contributed something unique. Sarah's voice grew stronger. The preservation front worries about dependency. But we are already dependent on each other. That's what community means. When my ship's navigation fails, I depend on Morphid pilots to sense the magnetic fields. When my sensors break, I depend on Solex heat vision. Dependency isn't weakness when it's mutual. It's strength. She looked directly at Grix. You ask what happens when you need humans and we're not there. I ask the same question. What happens when humans need Solex heat vision and they're not there? What happens when we need Vreen communications and they're unavailable? We build systems that work together. We create redundancy. We trust each other. Sarah pulled out the perception dictionary she had been working on. This is my gift to the Council. It's not finished, but it's a start. It's a guide to help every species understand what others can sense. It describes color in ways you can comprehend. It describes your senses in ways humans can understand. Not to exploit each other, but to learn from each other. She held up the display. I cannot see heat like the Solex, but now I understand what heat vision means to them. I cannot hear ultrasonic frequencies like the Vreen, but now I know what they experience. And you may never see red or green or purple, but I hope this dictionary helps you understand what those colors mean to us. Sarah's voice became softer, more emotional. 3,000 people are alive today because different species worked together. That's what the galactic community should be, not everyone being the same, but everyone bringing their unique perspectives to solve problems none of us could solve alone. She looked up at the thousands of aliens watching her. We don't ask you to fear our differences. We ask you to celebrate them. We ask you to see that a universe with many perspectives is richer than a universe with just one. We ask you to let us stand beside you, not above you or below you, but beside you as equals, who see the cosmos in different ways but share the same dreams. Sarah bowed and returned to her seat. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Kickstar, sitting in the observer section, began to clap. The sound was strange because his species clapped differently than humans, but the meaning was clear. Other aliens joined in, each species showing approval in their own way. Some made sounds, others created light patterns, and some simply stood up. Council Speaker Threxian called for order. We will now vote. All in favor of granting Earth full membership in the galactic community? The voting took 10 minutes as each species registered their decision. Sarah watched the display board, her heart pounding. When the results appeared, Sarah's breath caught. It was unanimous. Every single species voted yes. Even Grix in the preservation front had voted in favor. The chamber erupted in celebration. Sarah felt Dr. Rodriguez grab her in a hug. Her entire team was crying and laughing. Kickstar rushed down from the observer section to congratulate them. Council Speaker Threxian waited for silence, then spoke. Earth is now a full member of the galactic community. Welcome, humans. Welcome to your new home among the stars. Over the following months, humanity's role in the galaxy grew. The Council created a new position, Spectrum Consultants. Humans were hired across hundreds of worlds to help with quality control, safety inspections, and scientific research. They worked alongside aliens, never alone, always as part of mixed teams. The mining facility at Refraction Point was rebuilt with color-coded safety systems that humans helped design. Now, even though most species couldn't see the colors, they had tools that could translate those colors into signals they could perceive. Dr. Rodriguez became the head of the new Xenosensory Research Institute. where scientists from every species studied how different beings perceived reality. The goal was to build technology that could bridge these perceptual gaps. Trade Minister Vocara worked with human economists to create new industries based on human vision. But safeguards were put in place to prevent exploitation. Humans were paid fairly, treated well, and no one could be forced to use their vision if they didn't want to. High Commander Zelthros personally requested human advisors for military reconnaissance, but the Council established strict ethical guidelines. Humans could help spot dangers and save lives, but they couldn't be used to spy on peaceful populations or give unfair advantages in conflicts. Sarah Chen was promoted to permanent human representative to the Galactic Council. It was a title that came with great responsibility, but she was ready for it. One evening, 6 months after the vote, Sarah stood in the observation deck of Nexus 7. Kickstar found her there, looking out at a beautiful nebula in the distance. "I come here often," Kickstar said. "I wanted to ask you something I've wondered about for months." "What do you see when you look at that nebula?" Sarah smiled. "Would you like me to describe it?" "Please." Sarah looked out at the cosmic cloud. "There are ribbons of magenta, which is a purple-pink color, warm and royal. There are swirls of turquoise, which is a blue-green, cool like water. I see streaks of rose, which is a soft, gentle pink, and emerald green, which is the color of life and growth. All of it blends into an indigo background, which is a deep, rich purple blue.